The Chicago White Sox have spent the season really rehabbing their image and finally finding a path. And two of the most important players that need to find their way in 2026 are Hagen Smith and Noel Schultz. If these two bounce back for the Chicago White Sox, not only will the rebuild accelerate, we also will start getting more answers to the questions that we need. But if they don't, then we're going to have some real questions going forward as well. We're going to talk about that, plus Jeff Passan as well, giving the White Sox their flowers finally and what that means. And then there's a new bullpen rumor that's heating up involving Perez, and we'll talk a little bit about that, right? Spring training is right around the corner, and the pressure is officially on, and we're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's going on, Sox fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago White Sox Central, your home for everything happening on the south side of Chicago. I'm your host, Haize, one of the hosts here on this channel, and today we're going to be talking a lot about pitchers, but two pitchers specifically that could absolutely define what this season looks like for the Chicago White Sox. And when you look at this team, right, there are a number of questions that are going into the season that the White Sox are going to have to find answers to, right? When you look at the young core of players that we've built and now that we're trying to establish, you're looking at Colson, Montgomery, you're looking at Teel, and how they establish themselves in 2025. How do they take that next step forward for the White Sox in 2026? Because if they do, that adds more clarity. When you look at Murakami as well, and what he's bringing with his power from Japan over here to the majors, you're looking at Anthony Clay and the success that he had overseas and how he's hoping to bring that back over to Chicago, which could further help us define this team and the answers that we need to find for this team. Shane Smith, Sean Burke, other young players and pitchers as well that show flashes in 2025. Do they take that next step forward for the Chicago White Sox? That's what we're asking here. But amongst all the questions that the Chicago White Sox have, one of the biggest questions comes down to some of the pitching prospects that we have. Hagen Smith, Noel Schultz, right? Can they both bounce back from a tough 2025? Because if they do, like I said in the intro, that does nothing but help find more answers to the questions that are ailing the Chicago White Sox. I don't feel like it's a overstatement. I don't feel like it's that or an exaggeration to say that these are some of the most important questions in 2026, right? We have so much to rebuild here in Chicago. After the last few seasons, I'm sure every White Sox fan is looking at this offseason and getting a little bit excited about, which we'll talk about, right? So we have a core of hitters that's starting to come together. That's really good to see in regards to it. But pitching is still a big question here, right? And so while we have some solid pitching prospects, even without Schultz and Smith, we have that, right? But when you look at it, the majority of them project to be back-end starters rather than the front line, and you need that, right? So when you look at Tanner McDougal, right, you look at Christian Opor as well, and how they've risen over the past year for the Chicago White Sox, that's all great. And they could still become and develop into top pitchers for the Chicago White Sox, but they aren't the blue chippers that we had in Hagen Smith and Noel Schultz. They're just not the blue chippers that we had in that one, right? So when you want to see a true ace develop for your team, that's a big key in all of that, right? It gives you more certainty in some places that are questionable, and that's what the White Sox need to do, right? And so if it does not work with the development there, you're probably going to have to go into the free agent market to find your ace, because you're going to need that eventually. This season in 2026 is about if you have that guy already on your roster. If you don't, you're going to have to go out there and get him, because the last thing you want is hitting and no pitching. You don't want that, right? And so why right now, you look at the White Sox and over their history, we never really have spent big money on pitching. Well, I'm not to say that we haven't, right? But when you even look at Dallas in the 3-year, $55 million contract that he got in 2020, right? Which the largest deal we ever gave to a pitcher. So you still have that, right? So the ideal in the concept that the White Sox are going to go all out, they're going to sign a big name pitcher, that's still something that seems like a long shot for this team. You look at the trade market, right? Of course, there are going to be names out on the trade market that can be acquired. That's what it is. You want to have a consistent pipeline of players. That's great. But the simplest answer to this question is developing your ace from internally, right? And that gets you to where you have Smith and Schultz and how they're looking to rebound in the 2026 season from what they did in 2025. there are a number of different questions for all these guys. You look at Smith, the mechanics there were a question for him. And reportedly, the White Sox have worked on him, simplifying his delivery, which is going to help him throw more strikes, ideally, and then maybe you can develop him into your ace. But then for Schultz, the knee injury that he had there, right, which, is probably mainly to blame for the downtick, the elevated walk rate that we saw from him, all those type of things. And so now this offseason has been about focus and recovery and getting healthy for 2026 for Schultz. And it's good, right? It's way too early to give up on either one of these guys. They're just not out of position yet. I don't think they've been bad enough to where we need to give up on those guys. And the Sox have seemed confident in both those guys bouncing back. But I tell you what, if it doesn't happen in 2026, that's where we're going to have to start getting concerned. That's where we're going to have to try to go out and find the other answers elsewhere. And that can get expensive. Now, with the White Sox and the ownership and the pipeline of money, maybe it's not going to be as big a concern. But we have 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks remaining into spring training. So now time for talk is done. The time is to see the results on the baseball field, on that diamond, and can we get it? That's the question here. So let me know what you guys think down below. How confident are you in Schultz and Smith if one of those guys or both of them can develop into aces for the Chicago White Sox? Or are you more concerned and think that the Sox are going to have to go out in the trade market, go out in free agency, and try to find that ace? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, right, even though there are still questions, Jeff Passan has finally given the White Sox their flowers, which I feel like it's earned by what they've done this offseason. He goes on to say this on Twitter, because I'm never going to call it X. The Chicago White Sox have had a really good offseason. Murakami fell into their laps. Dominguez is proven late inning reliever. Anthony Clay, Sean Newcomb getting Asuna in the Lou Robb trade. Not contenders yet, but they're headed in the right direction. And I think that last part is the key. The White Sox are headed into the right direction. That's it. Now, I want to be clear here. The culture of losing that we've built, the disappointment from Sox fans, that's not going to change yet, right? And you look at it, a record setting 41-121, right? Which that's going to be something that people are going to doubt until they see it on the field, right? And that's up to the White Sox to prove it. The White Sox are repairing their image, they're repairing their team, and they finally feel like they have a direction. And that is the key thing. You cannot get out of hell until you have a direction. And so the question becomes about, are the Sox really finding their way? Or is this going to be another situation where we talk about what could have been, and when it's all said and done, we're back looking at it and saying, but it wasn't, right? So when you look at Getz, when you look at what he's building here and the blueprint that they're trying to enact here, listen, there have been some encouraging results already. Montgomery, 21 home runs last year, 55 RBIs in 71 games. Teel, we already talked about him earlier. He's definitely someone who's come over in that trade, and he's done great for the Chicago White Sox. They got the hitters. That's the thing that's good. They have the makings of a very solid team, and that's the thing that we should absolutely see. But we still got things that we need to develop, right? Of course, we traded away Lou Robb, which it is what it is there. But when you look at what we've got as well, like with Murakami coming in and the firepower that he's going to bring as well. Just talked about Asuna as well and what he's bringing. Dominguez, like there's promise here with Chicago, and probably more promise than we've had in a very long time. And so as we get closer and closer to spring and what that means for hopefully this franchise taking a step out of the darkness, things are starting to look up for the White Sox. Now, we just got to seal it. We just got to nail it home, and we got to keep taking those steps forward. And one of those steps may as well be the next bullpen target as well for the Chicago White Sox, and we'll talk about that. One of the players that the Sox are rumored to be going after is Cionel Pérez, right? Now, this is a guy that we'll talk about. Rumored the Rays, the Royals, the Rangers, and the White Sox are among the teams showing interest in him. He threw 98-mile-per-hour fastball, a slider at 86 mile per hour, a spin rate that's well above average. He's 29 years old. And while he originally signed with the Houston Astros, coming out of Cuba in 2017, he worked up through their farm system, rightfully so, and he made his big league debut in 2018. But now it's he started to lose control in 2024, 2025. He was designated for assignment in May after posting an 8.31 ERA in his first 19 appearances. But now this is a lefty with tons of upside. He is now a free agent and somebody that the Chicago White Sox could very well go out and target. Again, rumors as things stand right now. We'll see if they're actually able to go out and get it done. But I tell you this, for the Chicago White Sox, if they are able to get somebody in here like this, we'll see what's going to happen, man. I would love for the White Sox to continue to add talent to this team. And that would be something that could definitely be special as the White Sox continue to move forward and try to find what their path is going to be. You got to take shots on guys, and you got to take opportunities when you still are trying to establish what's next for your organization. You got to take chances on players to see what they're going to be. There are a number of teams showing interest in it. I love to hear that the White Sox are one of the teams that are showing interest in that. Now, he's been dominant before. Can you get back and add that talent to your bullpen? We continue talking about pitching is probably one of the biggest question marks for the White Sox headed into 2026. We're here now, into the season. So all the answers, all the opportunity to try to find answers, again, like we talked about, you either have to trade for them, you have to sign free agents. This would be going the free agent route to try to add some more talent here for the White Sox. Can they do it? We shall see. I want to hear from you guys on this down below. How do you feel on everything, right? Let me know in the comments. Which pitcher are you more confident heading into 2026? Schultz or Smith? And should the White Sox make a swing on Pérez as well? If you're rocking with the channel, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, tap that notification bell if you never want to miss an episode. We're building something here, just like the Sox are. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. But I'm Haize, this is Chicago White Sox Central. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.